I'm going to be talking about the barn tour this, the 8th annual barn tour. Okay, so we're going to do that. I have a slide. I'm going to be a little bit longer than Bob. And that, I have two announcements. One, there's a barn tour in Alexandria, New Jersey, in Hellertown County. If anybody wants to go to that, it's October the 12th, Alexandria. It's part of Holland Township, I believe, in Hellertown County. So that's October 12th. You can Google it. I don't have a website or anything, so you can Google that. There's also going to be a tour of the northern third of the log houses in Lehigh County on the same date. So I can't be two places. I've been asked to speak there. So October the 12th, the Hibble and Dahl Preservation Society is going to have that, and they're based in New Milford. Anybody wants to know that, you can order tickets. I think it's $10 or $12 or something like that. It's kind of a unique thing. And that's about it. I just wanted to raise your hands. Who has a historic barn or farm, pardon, okay, historic house or barn on the property? Maybe a dozen of you or so? Okay. So let's go through the talk and we'll get started. And this is the 2014 version of the barn itself. Okay, this is the only stone barn of the, excluding the wall-time barn right outside the door here, and the remnant. This is the only stone barn on the property on the tour this year. Okay, this is as it stands now, with the stone to the peak standard barn, the front straw shed, and the silo close to the back. This stands in the up-country posted barn. This barn, without this front straw shed, burned around 1912 or so. Okay, the barn completely burned, or it didn't completely burn. All the timber out of that barn was completely removed, and you can clearly see when you go in the barn today, Russell's going to be there, that the timbering, the joinery, and everything is completely consistent between the front straw shed and the roof barn. So it's very unusual. Everything is removed. So what do we have? We have the living room. Now in the front, this is a 6-foot wide tower, very wide with tower, doors, folding. All these doors from the 1912, 1915 period when the barn was rebuilt are original. The strange thing about this barn is this right here, the transom light. Now whether there was a transom light in the original barn or not, I don't know. But they would probably have it been pulled out. Stone, there's no original transom light, had to be pulled out. So that's an odd feature. Generally, although there are exceptions, we don't see transom lights in these barns before about 1820 or 30 at the very earliest. Okay? Here is the stable wall. Every barn on the tour this year has the original stable wall door. You never get 10. All 5 plain stone barns, and this barn has all the original doors. Now these are of course from 1912, 1954. We have the front straw shed here. It's 13 feet 8 inches wide. It's the widest straw shed that I know. I've seen any wider, but that's a really wide front straw shed. Built in the second decade of the 20th century. Here we have, you have to look closely here, we have a semi-unique situation where we have a brick floor 10 feet out and 36 feet long in front of, I guess, 3 stable doors here. In front of 3 of the doors are also stone stepping areas. They're not really thresholds, but they're stone stepping areas. So these are stone, and the rest of this whole pavement area, not pavement area, but masonry area, call it, is brick, okay? We're inside the barn, of course, now. Here is some of the timbering that we see. Here's the roof structure. There's dozens and dozens of milled rafter pairs here. And we have a queen post. Now this barn, again, built circa 1915, it would only make sense that you would have a canted purlin plate. I've said that a number of times. Bob has said it too through the past years, that that's a general diagnostic dating tool. You don't normally see this before about 1830 or so, but there can be a few exceptions here and there. These are the Overden beams, of course, and over these were placed boards, and above that, farm crops, okay? And here's more of the Overden, all right? This is it. We're now in the basement. Look at this. There's two summer beams here, but this is a summer beam. I showed this to people on Thursday evening. This is an interrupted summer beam where there's no splice. So many of these summer beams and so many of the barns have spliced summer beams where their scarf joints or splices join end to end on the summer. Here, it's interrupted. And the first one that I ever saw was Captain Merrick's barn just outside of Springtown. Okay? This is another section of the basement where we have a manger trough that is actually longitudinal in the barn. Cows have manger troughs that were transversely set, and just the opposite for the horses. The horses, of course, were set 95% in our area, in the valley, the Saucon Valley, and the Lehigh Valley, at the house side of the barn. There's no exception to this barn. This is the Overley barn. I don't know if I mentioned that before. And the house is built about 1820, okay? This is our second barn on the tour. I want to go back. You don't have to go back, Patrick. But the stone barn here has a wonderful stone barnyard wall. So don't take that in. Bob will be at that barn, I think. And to take that in, it's about 100 feet long. It has some very interesting features. This is our second barn, the Pitchell Frame Standard barn that was built about 1850. So many of the frame standard barns on today's tour were built anywhere from about 1850 to 1880. This barn is unique for a 3-bay barn. There's about 210 barns that have shown their faces so far that have principal rafter systems, the kind of system that you saw, the roof system that you saw in Bob's talk in England. Here you have a 3-bay barn that has 6 principal rafter pairs. Next one. This is the this is the pilot door, the original cover door. There's a fertility sign. The Kunzman's name is part of the lineage of the land ownership, and here's a PK, okay? Here we're inside the barn, of course, and look at these really big marriage marks. There's twice as big as many of the barns have. Let's go to the next one. No, go back. Sorry. Now here we see part of a principal rafter system, okay? Here's one at the end wall, and here's another one. There's 6 here. There's one in line with each frame, each bent, and one at the midway point in each end bay or mount. Okay, so this is the only 3-bay barn that has 6 principal rafter pairs. There's 4-bay barns that we've seen, that's FOUR, bay barns that have 5, sometimes 6. But this is the only one, this is the only 3-bay barn that has 6 actually, okay? Now this is a rare feature. This feature was found, anybody who was here 3 years ago on Easton Road when we had the barn tour, then went to the Laubach barn, and this Laubach barn actually had one of these side bay or end bay or mow area longitudinal passageways that went from the mowstead wall all the way to the end wall. It's about 7.5 feet wide. It could have been used for general storage, but it's a very rare feature. I've only ever seen a few of those barns. Okay? And here is the mowstead wall. There's probably about 40 or 50% of the one wall anyway that's intact. This is not pine, it's not oak, which we see 90% of the time or more. This is either walnut or basswood, and it's probably walnut rather than basswood because, tulip wood. It's probably, I'll repeat that, it's probably either tulip wood or walnut, and more likely walnut because tulip wood was so subjected to powder post beetle, and this hardly has any of that, okay? But we see that every once in a while, okay? This barn, by the way, is 60 feet 6 inches. Anybody recognize that distance? It's from the pitcher's mound to home plate. It was not 60 feet, not 61, but 60 as Roger said, 60.5. Okay, and here we have the principal rafter system again. The common rafters, large principal rafters in line with the bent. There we see the built-in ladder, the upper tie beam, and the lower tie, okay? Here we go on to the coffee barn. This is off Lower Saucon Road. It's only 32 by 28, but it's a very interesting barn. Here you have Pyrex on either side. I think the siding, the vertical siding on the far end, which is toward the house, in this case, I'm sorry, the near end, has the original siding. Here we have 3 original stable wall doors that are all blue, faded blue, and they're all original. There are no Spriggle bars. You Spriggle bar fans are going to be disappointed with this year's tour because none of the barns have any Spriggle bars. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay? Here is the backside of an original door. One of the general dating tools of a barn, now there are exceptions to this, is look at how many boards there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally you would not see that on a pre-1830 or perhaps pre-1840 barn. You'd see sometimes 2, sometimes 3 or 4, but that's a general dating thing. When you see that and the boards are narrow, like on the mouse-fed wall, you can generally guess that it's going to be probably after about 1850 or 60. Okay? And here we see this very great tradition or regionalism in our valley here, where the joist over the stable wall cantilever out beyond the wall by about 4.5 feet in this barn, and they tenon into the sill right here. You don't see that 3 or 4 miles, only to the west. In my area, in Macungie and Lehigh County, you never see this kind of feature. You see this in New Jersey, and you see it out in Ohio, but you don't see it in the Lehigh Valley. You see it extensively in the Saucon Valley. Okay? Here's the one single summer beam. It's a 32-foot long timber minus the thickness of the walls. So there's no splicing in this, just one beam. Okay? And here, of course, is the interior where we have our canted queen post, a diagnostic feature, canted purling plates. If you have one member that's canted here, you have the other one that's canted, virtually all the time. Upper tie beam, built-in ladder, okay? And you have marriage marks again, okay? All right? And you have, again, the overden beams, all right? Okay. This is the Rook, or the Nelson barn, that is also off Lower Saucon Road. This is a 45 by 35 foot barn. These are 2 additions on the right-hand side. We're not going to be going into those at all today, but we will be able to see all of this barn has all of its original stable wall doors, okay? Here we see, again, the stable wall doors here. Go ahead. This is the stable wall here, the inside. Here's the curry box and the beam inset into the stone with the empty holes for the harness hook pegs. This is on the horse side of the house side of the barn, for the horse stable area. Okay? This is the end wall on the basement level toward the house. Now this door is unusual in that, you'll see this today, this door is unusual in that it's centered, or just about centered, on the wall, where most often the doors that are on the near wall near the house are set far back toward the corner. It could be anywhere from as little as about 3 feet to maybe 8 feet. Here it's centered. Here you don't see it very well because of the lighting and all that business. But here, from this point diagonally over to the left, is a flush wall with their stone. But here it's not, because as Bob says, they built the wall, they dug out the trench, the earth, and just threw the stones in that wall, and these stones project 4 to 6 inches beyond that. There was no reason to make this really pretty or nice, and that's the way they did it. So that was covered with earth or ground before it was taken away to build the additions on the other side. The other end the other end wall at the basement level also has this steepness of ground level, okay? And here we have the Leidig barn. This is off Wassergasse Road. Wonderful little barn, 35 by 30. Here we have two faded barn stars. The owner, Jill Durstein, had this barn painted, I don't know when, 5 or 10 years ago, but she knew enough, I guess intuitively or whatever, not to paint the barn stars, and that was smart of her. Let's go to the next one. And presto, my God, it was quick. Actually, Patrick Dunmore and his sidekick Eric Claypool painted this, I think, the last week in July. And whirling swastika, they were only up there for a few hours. Far less more complex than other barn stars that they've both done. Here we have a barn that is 35 by 30, a 3-bay barn, frame standard barn with all 4 of its original stable wall doors, a pilarette about 5 feet. That's pretty wide for a small barn like that, okay? Here is the close-up of the barn star, okay? And here's another shot of the stable wall. These windows, by the way, are not original. And that's fading quickly. These windows in the upper parts of the doors are not original. I'd like to know if any of these doors ever have original upper windows. Sometimes those windows are filled in, okay? This is a mystery. This hole beside it. Bob and I have been talking about that, and Patrick too, for a while. We don't know really what it is, and a couple suggestions have been made. There was a barn that only came up about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, out in Franklin County that had this. So we thought this was a unique barn, and it's not. There is at least one other barn that has that, okay? And here, we're on the inside of the barn. I'm sorry this is not a real good photograph. This is the original Moustead wall. Bob, your pointer is unpointing. Here's the original side of the granary. And the door on the right-hand side, look on the upper right-hand corner of the door, there is, I'm sure, almost... What? Anyway, when you're in this barn, it's off of Wassergasse Road, look at the original hinge and look at the attachment side, and it's a very fanciful, almost Moravian-like finish here. This is another dating tool. Look at the narrow aspect of all the boards. You would not find this in an 1810, 20, 30, 40 barn even. And the hinge is connected to the front via bolts. I'm sorry, the bolts have screws on the end of it. You would never see that in a pre-1830 or 1840 barn, okay? And this, of course, is the upper area of the barn. Milled rafters, I think they're pegged. Again, we have the canted queen post. All these barns are late, so we're going to have canted queen posts normally. There are exceptions to that. Here we have this timber right here. You can look at this when you're in the barn. This is an upper longitudinal tie. Not all the barns have this. One of the barns, I think it's the Pitchell barn, has 2 of these on the end mount or the end bay. Here you have one, and here you have one, okay? And look at these craziness of the marriage marks. They didn't forget them on all those. And they're consistent, too. You have the one set, and you have the one set and the other set, okay? This is some original exterior vertical siding on the house side of the barn. We don't see Pennsylvania hearts all that much. We see other forms of ventilation, okay? Now I'm going to introduce you to a very special member of this household. This is a very sweet dog, and this is Bree. He's the official mascot of not only the Leidig Thurston French Standard Barn, but of the entire tour. Okay. This is to me, this is one of the wonders of the barn architecture in the greater Saucon Valley, and as far as I'm concerned, the southeast Pennsylvania. It's only a 2-bay barn. Bob was looking at this barn probably in July or August of last year. He goes by, he knew it was a 2-bay barn. I think he called it a 2/3 barn or something like that. But he got permission for it to be on the tour this year. And this is only a 2-bay barn. Here are the winnowing doors. Now, why would winnowing doors that you virtually always see in the middle of the barn, middle of the 4-bay wall, to the side? You see it because this is only a 2-bay barn. You have the wagon bay, the wagon bay right here on this side, and on this side you have the end mow. All right, so that is why the winnowing door is placed there. And again, we have Pylorex. Again, we have all 3 stable wall doors, original stable wall doors. You've got a 6-foot separation between the door on the left and the door, the next door, and less than a 2-foot separation over here. Now, why would you have that distinct difference there? It reflects the floor plan on the inside of the basement. That's why you have that, okay? And here's the 2-foot separation, and there you have the 6-foot separation between the other 2 barns. And you do have, again, one of those window cutouts. These have been filled in after the fact, okay? Now look at this crazy, crazy structure. My gosh. I went in there with Bob and Priscilla about a week or so, maybe after the tour last year. We have a principal rafter system. This barn is only 24 feet by 24 feet. It is the smallest barn of any of the tours in the last 8 years. Okay? Why would you, for a 24 by 24, it's like a big shed. Why would you put these massive trusses, no, I'm sorry, not trusses, but principal rafter pairs in such a, well, we can't go back 150 to 175 years ago and ask them. But there's a lot of implications in that, and that's why I'm saying that this barn was very much over-engineered. It's nice to have all these big timbers. Here you have 3 bent. This is the bent on the end wall. This crazy oak timber is a foot across. You know, you don't need that kind of support. And I've never seen, I've been in several 2-bay, 4-bay barns, you never see that kind of timbering, okay? This is the other third wonder of this Marriott barn. Look, this is the overden, of course. We have 3 overden beams, and the original, I can almost guarantee you that these boards up above which were stored farm crops, that you have these very wide, more than 2 feet wide boards. I would bet that they were probably chestnut. They could be walnut. They could be, I don't think they're oak. The grain is not right. It could be tulip wood, but I think they're probably chestnut, okay? And here again, we have a very clear view of this the back corner of the barn. Here we have an Azelfuss, which we talked about before. It's in your Barn Tour Guide booklet. You have an Azelfuss connection up here, where you have an upper tenon that is received into the upper tie, and you have a lower tenon that's received into the wall plate that sits atop the sidewall, okay? And Bob couldn't resist buying this. Bob, you want to tell a little story with that? Sure.
My son found this at a yard sale. Because, he got on a barn nut, so he bought this thing. It turns out to be a whiskey bottle. You can take off the lid, and there's a spout and a stopper there. Well, that was nice. And then at the front point it says Michter's Whiskey. Now, Michter's Whiskey was made near Schaeferstown, Pennsylvania. My mother happened to have been born in Schaeferstown, her log house, in 1892, I believe. And her family, the Bumbergers, were partners with the Mitchners in this brewery business. So the Bumbergers lost out. They lost all their money. The Mitchners kept on. And they eventually began to produce these collectible bottles. They're about, what, how many does it say? This is number 3,000. 3,000 were made, and that's all. Limited edition. But it was a 4-bay bag barn, a standard barn, and with my family connection, and her name was Bumberger, I call this the Bumberger Booze Barn.
Bob is a really good talker, speaker, lecturer, and everything. Again, he did the same thing today, just now, that he did Thursday evening. He never said anything about the Pylorex. Can you believe this guy? Anyway, actually, it doesn't have a pilot, it has a angle, which is rare, would be unique, but anyway, it's a.
But it does have a four-bay.
Okay, next. And last but not least, we have another little breed. Now, who can guess what NFB is?
My best friend.
No, man's best friend. Okay, we'll see Bree later. Thank you, everybody. Now.